Open today for the second term, with the authorities saying no learner should be turned away for non-payment of fees. The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education issued guidelines for the second term, which among other measures barred chasing learners over fees. Ministry also warned that schools forcing parents and guardians to pay fees exclusively in US dollars or buy uniforms and stationery only at schools will face disciplinary action. The ministry said schools must strictly adhere to the official interbank rate for fee conversions, adding that the unilateral rate setting is prohibited and violations will be escalated to monetary regulatory authorities. We visited different pick-up points for learners as they learned and returned to different schools, and some schools are seemingly in defiance with the order of not chasing learners away, while others comply by having payment plans.
Headmaster varongoti abafees varongokwidza pasina government approval, saka vabereki tiri kuzoti mabhadget anenge takaita kuwanza ministry ana kuapprova takudzokera futi back mari yaita se yatenga chimbobhadhara.
Mabhazi ari kutongoti mwana achipinda nemarisitsi ake kana asinawo marisitsi ari kubva adzokerawo kumba
popa mafees apo, but tinotenda nezviri kuitwa nezvikoro kuti at least togona kubhadharawo mbichana mwana ombonodzidza tozopedzisa. Ichocho chirongwa chakanaka, tinoramba tichikurudzira da varamba vakadaro, because pamwe pacho unoona vana kana 3-4 vari kuda kuenda, it becomes difficult kuti ubhadhare vese at the same time.
We obviously discussed in the first hour how this situation, obviously, this is something we talk about every single term when kids are going to school, about parents going for payment plans, about payments and children being sent away from schools. It's something that we shouldn't really be discussing. Children, we've already said,
and I think there's been a lot of conversation around this on social media about how practical it is. Some of these guidelines, especially when they were posted by the ministry on social media, some parents or observers maybe suggesting that the ministry might be out of touch and we need maybe a more fluid approach to how we do things and more engaged and interactive approach that involves the parents, the schools and the ministry, because primarily, as parents, we want a good learning environment for our kids.
Children.
The schools also are running a business to some extent. It's not charity. So I like the idea of proposing payment plans as opposed to barring learners from coming to school. So I think sustainable solutions, and I was saying that to you off air in the first hour. They're saying, you know, it's at times can feel monotonous when we get to this stage of back to school, because the issues are the same.
Still the same.
And I was saying, I think we need to have more conversations about how we fix, you know, these situations. This issue of US dollars versus interbank rate and all the challenges that are associated with it, school fees and payment plans and all the different uniforms. How do we have conversations around it? Because it seems also that, you know, the majority of parents in particular are not even reporting some of these issues to authorities.
What you were saying, you know, it's bringing me back really to some other stories that we've talked about, especially that vendor story where they got together and with the government and everyone in the ministries to actually decide the way forward. And the thing that you were saying is that we need to come together as parents, teachers and the relevant authorities to have dialogue as to what's going to happen, because sometimes when we don't have feedback and we don't know, we just continue like everything is normal. Like you're rightfully saying, some parents just keep quiet about it and they bite their bottom lip and then they just pay whatever is required. So I think it's very important to have these meetings, bring the schools together, the school heads or whatever it is, bring them all together with parents to also just have a solid discussion and dialogue about these, because these are issues really that we're saying, let's not have them every single term we open school.
And I think another thing that needs to be factored in is that obviously we have our public schools, mostly government schools, right? And usually the fee structures, they're usually reasonably affordable, and maybe some of these issues are easier to implement as opposed to a private school. Because I think a blanket approach doesn't necessarily work, because with a private school, primarily, there's a private institution, and you make a choice to say, you know what, this school maybe is strong in its extracurricular activities, and you want it for the culture or the class size or the sporting facilities that are there, and you make an active choice to say, you know what, whilst there's a government school or public school that's in my neighborhood, I want
I
to send my
prefer
child
sending my
to
son-
that.
my
So I
child
think
there.
then taking a blanket approach in terms of then wanting to have the same guidelines for those private institutions, I think might be a bit of a challenge. So I think there needs to be a conversation. I would like to see it more centered around the public institutions, which is where the majority of learners go, and where I feel the government in particular can have a bit more control and be able to manage the situation better. Although I'm not saying private schools should be given carte blanche.
I still think, look, I still think, you know, as much as you're saying it's just more blanket, it is because it's education for everybody. Whether you're paying 20,000 or whether you're paying $20. At the end of the day,
my argument is paying 20,000 is usually a choice that you make.
Yeah, it is a choice, but still, even if you do go to those private schools, they still are having that send the kid back. So I think we are all humans.
Yeah.
We have rights as human beings pertaining to education, which is a right that every child should have. So that's why I'm kind of on the you know, like, listen, I think it's just the same thing, because we are dealing with the same government. It's not that we have different governments. It's just the mind frame and mindset that we have. I don't know. That's my stance.
Well, you guys started this conversation on social media, so let's continue it there on our different social media platforms at Zim Papers, a television network on Facebook, at ZTN Prime, across other social media platforms.